Charlie. Mark, 1 Charlie.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm full of optimism.
Einstein's theory of relativity.
And we're still seeing it quite well through that haze. T-minus 37 seconds.
The fight is growing
E
confident.
equals MC.
That all men are created equal.
About the future innovations.
And growing strength in the air.
Tear down this world.
Something's happening, coming up on station.
This is Finding Your Frequency with your hosts, Jeff Spinard and Ryan Treasure. It's time to speak up, share your voice, and hear from the thought leaders.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fantastic episode of Finding Your Frequency. I am your host, Ryan Treasure. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody who listens to the show. You know, I really value the time that you all take to listen to this program. And, you know, thank you for all of your emails and comments on iTunes. We really appreciate you guys. And the show wouldn't be successful without all the listeners out there. So we appreciate it and hope everybody is staying safe with all of the crazy COVID stuff that's going on, as well as protests and all those types of things. It's been a very interesting 2020, so we'll definitely talk a little bit about that today. But, you know, as we continue down our path of, you know, learning new things and finding out why people do what they do, we're going to talk to a great guest today. She's awesome. She just specializes in empowering creative women entrepreneurs to increase their confidence, impact, money, and time. Everybody knows we always need more time. And so she's fantastic. So I want to welcome Jenny Fenig to the show. Jenny, welcome.
Thank you so much. What a warm welcome.
Yeah, we appreciate you jumping on today. I know you're a very busy person. You got a lot of stuff to do. You got the kiddos at home, and you got your own stuff that you're working on. And, you know, so appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us on Finding Your Frequency.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So, Jenny, you know, staying true to the show, as we always talk about how people found their frequency in life and in business, you know, our CEO, Jeff Spinard, wrote a book, Finding Your Frequency, How to Broadcast Yourself and Your Message. And we kind of started out in the beginning just kind of as a topical show, talking about these things as podcasting and all that was exploding in 2016 when we started this radio show. You know, we kind of got to the point where we shifted gears and we were like, you know what? How do people find their frequency in life and in business? And I know you know, we're in the corporate 9 to 5 and doing that pretty standard thing and then jumped off and started your own thing. Why don't you tell us how you found your frequency in life and in business?
Ooh, I like that. Well, I found my frequency by finding my intuition, trusting my intuition, being willing to tune out all the external, and there's plenty, especially now. And gosh, I was doing a lot of this excavation work before social media was a thing. Didn't even exist. Yeah. And I find there's pieces of being able to find your path that might be easier now because you have all these resources and people are sharing ideas and there's the internet. But I was doing all this before that was a thing, which I believe served me because I wasn't so inundated with everyone else's opinions and all the distractions. But I remember distinctly growing up in the South. I grew up in Florida and Georgia, found my way to the University of Florida, found this career that I never heard of until I kind of tripped over it in college. And it was this field called public relations. And I thought, oh my goodness, I think that's it. I think that's the work I'm meant to do. Prior to that, I figured I'd become a teacher. I really enjoyed, you know, inspiring people, guiding people, motivating them, helping them, you know, find their answers, and just that idea of teaching. My mother was a teacher. You know, it's interesting I grew up in a small town also, and I didn't have a lot of options. I didn't know that there were all these different careers to choose from. And I graduated from high school in 1995, so you get a sense of how old I am and just what was happening in the world at that time. So I thought, I'll be a teacher. That sounds, you know, I'll go back to my hometown. I'll become a cheerleading coach and the yearbook sponsor, basically do everything that I did, you know, when I was in high school, and I'll have this life. And I realized pretty quickly in college that I don't think teaching is what I meant to do. I didn't see myself teaching in, you know, 4 walls and going to the same place every day and maybe teaching the same subject 3 different times a day or what have you. And eventually I stumbled on this field of public relations, and I thought, there's something about that. I've never heard of it before, but I like the people I'm meeting. I'm an amazing communicator. I've always been strong with the written word and the spoken word, and I feel like this will allow me to do all that stuff. And so I dove right in. Eventually that led me to New York City. And I had never been there before, but I scored an internship between my junior and senior year of college. I had friends who were a year older who did that before their senior year. They came back, they said, Jenny, you have to do this. It's going to change your life. It'll be amazing for your resume, all the things. I go, okay. That's the power of having, a circle of people around you who are ambitious and motivated and interested in pursuing things, right? Going after things that they're good at. And so I took their advice. I applied for a few internships, and I got one at this big agency. And I was working on major accounts and, big name brands. I had big responsibilities as a young 20-something. And that same firm hired me back upon graduation. And I was basically living the dream. Okay. New York City, work hard, play hard, global blue chip clients, expense account, traveling, the whole thing. And it was interesting, and I enjoyed the people I worked with, and I was definitely challenged by the work, but I wasn't fulfilled in the way that I felt deep in my bones like I should be and I could be. And a big driver for me, Ryan, was that my sister died, my only sibling, died when I was a teenager. She was 12 and she got cancer, and she ended up dying from cancer about a year after we found that she had it, and she had gotten really sick. And so that's been a real driver for me, and I think something that allows me to take on a significant amount of risk, because I just know that tomorrow's not guaranteed. And what is the point of you kind of just going through the motions and playing the game and wearing this mask that all is well when inside it's not? I just don't take any day for granted. So towards the end of my ability to stay in that job and just suck it up, I really started listening to that intuitive voice and honoring when it would tell me to do things that were scary, like take a half day off of work, which felt like a big deal because we were in such an intense environment. It sounds kind of ridiculous to say, but it was true. And I don't think it does.
I mean, I work in media. I mean, the news cycle is crazy right now, right?
Yes.
And I'll give you an example. Like I had some dental work I had to go do on Friday.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, I should really write another blog article. I think I can whip one out, and my wife was the one. She was like, Ryan, like if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of us, so totally. you gotta go do that. And so I went to the dentist on Friday. And then my crown broke over the weekend, so I had to go back again yesterday. Gosh.
Yeah, you're like, I don't have time for this. Yeah. No, and you get it. Like that in PR, you're working with the media.
Yeah.
And again, this was before there was no social media, and it was still intense, And so you're going, I can't take time off. The client might email me. We didn't even have cell phones back then. Yep. No, I did have a cell phone, but there was no texting. It was just a whole other world.
You had that flip phone.
I had the flip phone. Yeah. I had that flip phone. But I remember going, oh my gosh, and it was interesting because it was right around the anniversary of my sister's death. And I had spent years running from that pain and running from that grief by being, the best student and the best this and the best that. I didn't have space to grieve, and I didn't even know how to do that. So it all caught up with me like a ton of bricks. And I remember realizing I have got to go to my boss and tell her that I need to take a half day, not even a full day, a half day off of work to simply be with myself and be with this grief. And that week, it wasn't like I need 2 weeks in advance. It was like in a few days. And I was so terrified to do it, but I knew I had to do it. And so that particular day, I had this epiphany, and I just realized that is the greatest gift I can give myself, to really listen and to trust those nudges and to trust that inner voice. And the more that I would do that, the more that I would find the truth, and I would find the path that I was really meant to be on. And so that eventually led me to leave that career, or leave that job, I should say, your career is long spanning. But I really left public relations, which was a huge identity shift for me because I thought I'd always do that. In college, I was president of the PR Society. We had the largest chapter in the nation of the Public Relations Student Society of America, and I was president. I'm like, wait, hold on, I'm leaving PR. Like, what does that mean? Like, who am I? And I found my way into this whole other world that I didn't even know existed. And I think that's a point I want to make, because there's so many worlds out there. There's so many places where you can provide value and you can be challenged. And so if you're listening in right now and you know the world that you're living in right now, or the place where you're spending time and your energy just isn't it, then there's so many other places to explore. And so I found this whole space called conference production. I became a conference producer, and my job was to basically do research with particular various industry leaders around like functional areas. And so it would be looking at creating conferences for people in the customer management field, the customer service field, the brand development field, the brand design, package design, customer research. I was in the marketing and business strategy division. And so I had various conferences that I was in charge of going in, and for the most part cold calling or cold emailing these industry leaders and saying, hey, could you hop on the phone with me for a few minutes? I would love to talk to you about your biggest challenges in your work, because we're working on a conference that is going to bring together the brightest industry leaders to share case studies and tools and tips about what's working. And the majority of the people wouldn't respond or would say no, but I'd get those who were willing. And it was amazing because it taught me how to think like an entrepreneur, to make something out of nothing. And it also was the first time that I really started making big money, because I got a cut of the profits of the events. And so as my events did well and I understood what I was doing, because the first year I'm like, what am I doing? Oh my gosh, you're just kind of flying blind. But I figured it out. And it was fun. It was a fun game. It was a stressful game. That business was all about profitability. And if you didn't get it, they had no problem firing you about 1 month in. They saw you weren't going to get it. You were out. And I got it. Luckily, I got it. And I had the chance to work with, incredible leaders at the top companies in the world. And I had some incredible keynote speakers as well. I had some budget to book on speakers like the former Secretary of State Colin Powell, management leaders like Tom Peters and Ken Blanchard. We had Tony Robbins speak at our event. We had Lance Armstrong before all the drama around the doping scandal with Tour de France, but various leaders that have been significant contributors in their field took the stage, and I was able to see them in their brilliance and see them also getting paid a lot of money for an hour or 2 hour talk, and going, I think there is another way to do this. I think what I've learned here, once I realized there and in the previous job that I'd learned everything I was meant to learn, I had to trust that, even though it was scary, because I didn't know exactly where that was going to lead me. And so the question of how did I get the courage up to make those pivots, it was, and really, find my frequency, it was, I learned to listen to that small, still voice within and trust her, trust that voice, even though it felt like I was going against the grain. It felt like everyone else seems to be okay just coming into work and complaining about their job. Why can't I be okay with that? Why can't I be okay with making more money than I ever thought I would make? But it wasn't enough. And it was this mind-blowing discovery that money, when the things that you need to do to get the money, when that stuff wasn't aligned, that wasn't okay with me. And when I knew that the environment I was in was not conducive to my growth and my expansion and my ability to, have a family and have a schedule that was going to let me live, really let me live my life, I had to be willing to make those shifts. And another piece of the puzzle for me was really listening to my body and taking good care of her and not abusing her. I had a long period of my life where I drank too much. I did things, I thought I thought thoughts that weren't constructive, that weren't healthy. I had people in my life that weren't ideal, that weren't supportive of who I really am in the world. And so I had to be willing to let go of a lot. Yoga has been a critical piece of the puzzle for me. And it was yoga that allowed me to quit that last job, because I decided to go through a yoga teacher training. I didn't know where that was going to take me. And towards the end of that 3-month, 200-hour teacher training, I quit my 6-figure job without another job, without a plan of, hey, now I'm going to be a business owner. I'm going to start a website. I'm going to be coaching clients. I'm going to be doing these things. I just quit saying, I will figure it out. And I kept listening to that intuitive voice. And it's led me to the field of coaching, to then going through a rigorous coach training, going through all these different business trainings, online business trainings, marketing, entrepreneurship. I mean, I'm a voracious learner and it serves me really well. I have incredible clients who are also voracious learners. And a lot of what I teach them is how to listen to that intuitive voice and how to trust it, and how to incorporate that into your creations. And so now what I do is I help my people make money with their magic, and it's awesome.
Oh, what a great story. I love it. The promo for our radio show talks about summoning the intestinal fortitude, right? And that's what you did. You summoned up the fortitude to just say, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm going to go figure it out. And that's what I call finding your frequency moment, right? Because you're like, whatever, I'm just going to figure it out. I love it.
Yep. That's what it is. Everyone, it's just, you will figure it out. But when you don't figure it out? By just thinking about it. You got to take action. You got to say, you know what? I'm going to try this. I have no idea where that's going to take me, but there's something about it that is calling me forward, and I'm going to trust it, and I'm going to trust myself. That's the key. So
how did you, during that transition, right? How did you figure out what your product was, right? Because you've obviously you're in this space and you're like, well, all right, I got to figure something out. So what was the process that you put yourself through to figure out, okay, what is the product that I have, or service that I have, and then how did you go about marketing that new thing to people that you were unsure about? Yeah, totally. Wonderful question. So what was key for me, and the hard part, that tricky part when you're kind of navigating, like, what am I doing? What am I going to do with my energy? What am I selling? And how am I doing it? And prior to that, I was selling other people's stuff. Okay. And I was selling ideas. I was selling, I worked in PR. I would sell stories, basically. I would sell a story. And so nobody was buying it with money, but they were buying it with space in their magazine or space in their newspaper or on their television show. So I've always been in the business of sales. And once it was the conference thing, it was, then they were going to buy this product, but they weren't, my name was attached to it as the producer or the director of it, but it wasn't my company. And so once you evolve out and have your own business, it is your company. And that's exciting, but it can also be quite overwhelming, especially when you're multi-talented and you could do lots of different things and doing pretty well because you'll figure it out. You're good at lots of things. So for me, that critical kind of navigation point was once I discovered that this field of coaching existed, which basically was the answer to all my problems, because I realized, oh my gosh, the thing that I always did best in all the jobs that I did was this thing that I didn't know how to name, and it's called coaching. Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go through this training. I'm going to become a coach, and I will sell services as a coach. And so I just started doing that, selling one-on-one packages where I would support individual clients in moving through transition. And mostly it was transition in their career. Sometimes it was in a relationship, but I was pretty focused on working with mostly women in transition. I did work with some men at first too. I love men. I'm married to one and I'm raising 2 boys as well as a daughter. But early on, I realized that there was something about creating a community of women that really called out to me. And I felt like there needed to be more spaces for women to gather and have these real conversations and to commit to doing the work together. So I was doing this one-on-one client work, which was a lot of the training that I received when I went through classic coach training back in 2008. But to bring in money, let's just be real and talk about money, to bring in money
to ensure that my life in New York City with my husband, we could still pay for it. I was doing freelance work as a conference producer. And so that was a skill set, and I had connections in that space. I had a woman who was previously at the company I was at. She went to work for a new company as the head of that company, and she wanted to bring me on full time. And I was very clear with her, I'm not interested in working here full time. I'm building out my work as a coach, but I have space to take this on, on a project by project basis and do incredible. And she knew I was really good at what I did. And so she wanted me to come on and support her company in that way. And so I was able to take on these projects and do them on my own time while working from home. And I was really clear I was not going to work back at somebody else's company. I was working from home. That was going to be the way. And plus, I really wanted to start having children. And so I got pregnant at that time with my first baby. And it was so lovely to be able to work from home and go to yoga during the day. And it didn't need to be a thing. And I didn't need to ask for permission. I just did it. I needed that to be the way that my life was going to go. I could not go back to that Monday through Friday going into somebody else's office and like asking for time off and telling you when I was going to the doctor. Like I just couldn't play that game anymore. And so that's what I was doing. I was bringing in that freelance work. I was building up the one-on-one stuff. Then I started, it's interesting, your life just will give you these doors, here's the door. It's going to be open for you. Do you want to walk in it? You don't have to, but you can. And so I had that first baby. I joined a new mom support group in New York City, which was life-changing. And being that woman who is trained to spot opportunity and where a need might exist, I would hear the place where I would go to these new mom support groups. It was one big room. It wasn't like they had a separate lobby and we were in this other room. Like when if the phone would ring, the woman would answer it and we were in our group. And so you could hear what was going on, what was being said in the conversation. And I would hear them turning away moms who were calling about the new mom support group because the group was full. And they're saying, we can get you in our next group, which starts in 2 months. And I'm thinking, she can't wait 2 months. She needs this thing now.
Yeah.
She's lonely. She's tired. She feels like she doesn't know what she's doing and she needs a community. And in New York, a lot of women too go back to work after, 3 months of their maternity leave, maybe 2. And so kind of the bells were going off in my brain. And I hooked up with this other organization they were hosting luncheons for moms, like you go with your baby and you'd learn about these different topics. And I just started talking with the woman who started this, and I explored maybe I could help them with some of their events. I had that conference background. I thought I'd like to get involved in this world because it's my world now, right? I'm a mom and I still want to work. I love working, but it needs to work. It needs to work for me. Yeah. And I was going through my coach training at that point. I had my private clients and I just really wanted to build this whole thing out. And I was curious about how it might look. And so eventually we realized, wait, what if I started offering new mom support groups through that organization? They had already amassed the following, right? They had the mailing list, they had the community already established, and I had the desire and I had a skill set that I could bring to the table. And so we did it. We created this collaboration. I started leading new mom support groups for that organization. We filled up, they grew, they went north from that neighborhood. I mean, in New York, it's very neighborhood specific. And so we were then leading them in all different types of neighborhoods. And that was my taste of bringing women together in what I call, circle. It's like a circle of support, a circle of community with the intention of telling the truth and sharing and connecting and being real. And I just fell in love. And I said, I have to do more of this. At that point too, I was learning more from entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs in particular, about online business. And I said, I want to create something where I could help people. And at that point I wanted to help moms, but I want to help women all over, not just in New York City. I want to do this online. And that's what I started doing. I figured out how to create an online program. And then I really moved into working with entrepreneur moms. And I had my first mastermind. And then I had this course and then this thing. And I started leading retreats. And it was just kind of one thing led to the next, to the next, to the next. I eventually moved to Massachusetts. I love it. I live in Western Mass. It's just gorgeous. I call it the cultured country. It's just so it's just nature and space and just beautiful weather and a wonderful place to raise a family. And my business grew so much. And it was interesting when I told people I was leaving New York City, and my coaching business was still very much in its infancy, and people thought I was crazy. Or, you just started this business, you're moving to the country? Why would you do that? And I just, again, that small still voice within, I knew I couldn't grow what I wanted to grow there. I was in a 2-bedroom apartment. I wanted more children. I needed more space for my work. I loved working from home. I didn't have the space. And in New York, space is very challenging to come by. And this just lined up, and it's been incredible. And I feel like it's been a mix of me continuously investing in myself, continuously working with coaches, mentors, being in programs, going to events, learning, following my curiosity, putting my work out there before it's perfect, because it's never going to be perfect. It's the whole done is better than perfect. And then, trusting. There was something I shared with a client today that I just felt was so profound, because a lot of my people deal with this perfectionism trap. I have to wait until it's perfect. Well, you're going to be waiting for the rest of your life, because it's never going to be there. So I said, to her, and I realized this is what it was for me, is the pain of not doing it becomes greater than the desire to do it perfectly. So for me, it was, what would be the pain of me not offering this thing that I know my people need? I just know it. I can feel it. And I knew because I needed that. I needed that a few steps before. And so I just kept doing it. I really just kept doing it and figuring out how to price it, how to get the tech stuff in place, how to hire someone to help me with that stuff. Because really, it's not that hard. It's not, especially now with Google and all the resources, and you could join a course, or you could hire somebody to at a higher end to do it. I mean, there's a gazillion options, and you have to simply decide that you're going to do it and that you're committed. You're not just interested or kind of thinking about it, but you're committed.
Yeah, it's not one of those scenarios where you can just have a toe in the water. You really have to say, hey, I'm doing it and going out there. Are you having trouble finding hand sanitizer? Well, Spa Treat has you covered. There's no need to go searching high and low. Just visit spatreatofficial.com and place your order on their easy-to-use website. On schedule delivery. One of the great things about this product, Spa Treat Fulfillment Team is working around the clock to provide people hand sanitizer during this time of need and get your order to you as quickly as possible, even faster than Amazon. Spa Treat also has the lowest price of any of its competitors. Spa Treat has 62% alcohol content, and the FDA recommends between 60 to 80 for maximum protection. This one has 62 because it doesn't dry your hands out. I use this stuff every single day. It is fantastic. It's got certified organic extracts with the ingredients in that hand sanitizer that are of the highest quality, and they're designed to leave your hands smelling and feeling fresh while protecting you at the same time. The best part, there's no tricky residue left over. None of that sticky stuff. 4 scents available: unscented, tea tree, lavender, and lemon. And best of all, this product right here is made in the good old United States of America. A lot of companies are having trouble dealing with the current demands, so Spa Treat has dedicated themselves to providing a much needed product in the time of crisis. Spa Treat has better prices, faster shipping, and a larger supply than any of their competition. There isn't even a close second. Visit spatreatofficial.com and enter promo code SPA SPA at checkout to receive 5% off your entire order. That's right. Not only are they offering the lowest price available, but they're also offering our listeners a discount. This promo code is exclusive to Voice America, and only our listeners get this discount. Spa Treat and Voice America came together on this sponsorship in order to provide Americans something they could really need right now: peace of mind. Visit spatreatofficial.com and order yours today. That's spatreatofficial.com, and make sure you use the promo code SPA at checkout to receive 5% off your entire order. spatreatofficial.com. Get your awesome hand sanitizer. You know, as you're doing coaching, and I love that you have this great coaching practice, and I've been to a myriad of different conferences, whether it be, things like CEO Space. We've worked with very high-end names in that space like Bill Walsh and Dave Clark and a bunch of folks we have James Dentley, who's a speaker who does a show on our empowerment channel, and those and coach as well. Those are, just some of the coolest people to hang out with, right? From my perspective as a media person, because they've, started their own business and helped all these other people with their businesses. And, just to kind of hear some of the war stories that those folks have are just fantastic. So I'm sure you have a few of your own. And I wanted to put that in the mix of something I thought that was really interesting in your bio was that you mix modern with ancient practices. And the reason why that struck me is, number one, I am a karate aficionado. And back to what you said about perfect versus done. For the longest time when I was doing martial arts, I would tell my sensei, I'm not ready to test yet because I don't think I have my forms perfect. Right. And so I never ranked. I never advanced in belts because I wouldn't take the belt test because I didn't feel like I could do those good enough. And it was one of those scenarios where my wife was just like, just go test and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I did, and I got like skipped up 2 belts with, from where I was at, which was kind of cool. And so now anytime that I get the opportunity to belt test, I always just go in and test whether I win or lose. It doesn't matter. I'm still doing it. So that's just such a great piece of advice that you gave, about perfection. And as you know, karate, those movements, there's, people spend a lifetime trying to, to make their forms exactly perfect. And, you can even go to the Olympics for some of those things, which is kind of cool. But again, if you're not completing it and you're just so worried about, it being perfect, then you'll never move forward. So I love that piece of advice. But back to my original question. When you say mix modern with ancient practices, how are you doing that in a business and entrepreneurial space with these fantastic women in their businesses?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Well, I mentioned I love that you do karate, and as you were saying that, I'm just thinking the movie Karate Kid, because I just saw that with my kids for the first time during when the pandemic really just took over our lives and everything, and you're kind of like, all right, we watched a lot of movies. And I realized, oh my gosh, they've never seen Karate Kid, and that was one of my all-time favorite movies. And oh my goodness, that finale scene, I still have it in my brain, like, he kicks it anyway. So thank you for your karate story.
Oh, and that movie's phenomenal. It's the best. What it teaches young people is amazing.
Yes, absolutely. And I say to my kids sometimes when they ask me, I'm like, wax on, wax off. You have to be willing to do the work. And I actually reference that book, that movie in my book at Gutsy.
Nice.
Karate Kid. And I say to my clients oftentimes, I am like Mr. Miyagi. I'm going to tell you things. You might not understand why I'm telling you these things. You don't get how it kind of connects into these other things, but you got to trust me. You got to trust me. This is why you got to do the work. You've got to show up, because you're training. You are preparing for the thing that you're meant to do here. And so for me, it's through yoga. Yoga is a practice that's been around for more than 5,000 years, and it came from India, and I'm so grateful. I went to India a few years ago. It was really a dream to be there. Awesome. And it's so interesting how that trip even came to be when you think about your frequency and creating things. I went through yoga teacher training, as I mentioned, back in 2007 at the end of that kind of classic corporate career. And I remember when I went through it, just learning because yoga is not, and I'm sure I never studied karate other than seeing the movie Karate Kid, but yoga is not about contorting yourself into shapes, pretzels, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's wonderful to be able to do that, but that's one piece. And the purpose isn't that. The purpose is to achieve mastery over the mind. Okay. And so when I went through,
that's exactly what the purpose of karate is too.
There you go. Okay.
People like, oh, you take karate so you can beat people up. Well, I mean, that's a side product of that. But the idea of karate is a lifetime of trying to seek something for perfection for your mind and your body and having them work together as one.
Totally. And so yoga means union, to yoke. And so it's that body, mind, spirit connection. And I knew that when I had been practicing at that point, when I went through yoga teacher training, I had a disciplined practice for about 6 years. And I always felt so good when I did it. And I didn't quite know why, because I had exercised in different ways in the past. But when I would practice yoga, it was like I could be with myself. and I could be out in the world and like myself and who I was able to show up as in a much stronger way. It was fascinating to me. And so as I studied to go through this teacher training process, I was reading all of these sacred texts and learning about the philosophy and understanding these various concepts, and it made me understand why I loved yoga so much. And so now in my business, I joke that I really do teach yoga. They just don't realize it because I'm not teaching asana. It's not like come to my class and I'll put you in Warrior 1 and Warrior 2. That's not what I'm doing with them. What I am helping them achieve is that mastery over the mind. And I do it through various techniques, but one is certainly meditation, conscious breathing. I create regular meditations for my clients, whether they be, standalones, and I'll offer them up in our various coaching programs. Often I'm leading these live, meditations or guided visualizations during a call with a group of clients, and I'll just bring them in. And I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do because I never know exactly where we're going to go during that process. I just know when I'm called to lead it, and I'll invite them to come inside and to close their eyes and to simply tune in. And I tune in, and we go where the impulse takes us. And it's always incredible and magical and illuminating. And so that's one of the ancient practices that I use with my clients. I also do a lot around energy and reminding the people that we are these energetic beings, and we get to decide how we want to show up energetically. And there's different things you can do to really work with that energy. I mean, that's really frequency, right? Energy,
Absolutely.
Your vibration, it's everything. It's your mindset. It's the thoughts that you think and you allow yourself to think. It's your willingness to, move energy. And so a lot of my teaching is to remind my clients of that, and then to help them better access their true nature. And we do that by reconnecting with nature and to honor the various elements, right? Fire, water, air, earth. And now especially we have to remember this. I mean, technology, when it's good, it's good. And when it's not used effectively or in a constructive way, or we overuse it, or we just forget that we're meant to go be in the world and not just do and not just be behind a screen, we have to reconnect with nature. And as I'm talking to you right now, I'm just looking at trees. I'm looking at the light coming in. Prior to our conversation today, I took my kids to this lake that's about 5 minutes down the road from my house, and it was so awesome to be floating on that paddleboard with my daughter. My sons were in these kayaks fishing, and I get the greatest downloads when I'm out there. I mean, I get ideas from my clients. I'm able to better show up. And so these ancient practices are really practices where you simply get to remember who you are. And then the modern practices are things that we have with connecting through these tools, through technology, through social media, through email, through however it is that you nurture your audience. When you remember to nurture yourself through these ancient practices, then the two connect so powerfully, and you're able to amplify your message, and you're better able to fulfill the big mission.
Yeah, no, that's very well said, and thank you for that. And I feel the same way too. Like I'm an avid boater, right? And so for me, when I get the opportunity, like literally, I'm so excited. I just got my boat out of the shop for its yearly service, and we're planning our first trip to the lake this summer. And I don't go to the lake on holidays or Father's Day or anything like that, because there's just way too many people, and it defeats the purpose of what I'm trying to do, right? And so we have our plan. We're going to the lake on the Friday after Father's Day, right? During the day, I'm taking a day off of work to go do that.
Yes.
Right. And just, You're 100% correct. I don't know what it is for me. Like I'm totally a water person. I was in the Navy. I've been swimming my whole life, all of those things. So I just have this weird connection with water. But when I'm out on the lake, and it doesn't matter whether we're driving, sitting, standing, swimming, doesn't matter. It allows me to get the stress off of out of my body. It allows me to enjoy the sun. And it could be 120 degrees outside, right? We live in Phoenix. It's super hot here. And I don't care. Right.
Yes.
I'm just like, here I am. I'm in my happy place. I've got these nice mountains and, looking at saguaro cactuses, and the lake that I go to has a whole bunch of really cool wildlife. There's bald eagles in there.
Nice.
And so just being able to kind of reconnect with nature gives me specifically that opportunity to recharge. And you're right. I come up with so many cool ideas, especially for, like radio show topics or things that I think maybe we could do at our company with, marketing efforts and different things, just by being at the lake and just being completely analog. And I feel like every time I go, my circadian rhythm is just back in focus. And, so I'm glad that there's another person out there that feels the same way about connecting with nature. And, that is definitely an ancient practice. And somebody says, well, go hug a tree. Well, that's pretty much it.
Totally.
Go do that.
I say that to my clients sometimes, like, go hug a tree, go walk barefoot.
Yeah, barefoot in the dirt.
Yes, barefoot in the dirt or in the grass. Go touch that water. We got a fire pit a few weeks ago. That was a huge development because it gets cold. I grew up in the southern part of the United States. Now I'm in Massachusetts. It's cold here.
Yeah.
So I got that fire pit. My showers are conscious shower taking. I mean, literally, I get amazing ideas in the shower. And we got this really cool they're like river stones. When we got that shower put in, we moved into the house, we renovated the bathroom, and they have these kind of tiles that are like river stones. And so the bottom of my shower is stones. And so it's not flat. It's like my feet are on stones, but I go in there and that's cool. Like something happens for me. It's that reset. It's that recharge. And I'm so glad we're talking about this because, especially this year, you said at the beginning of the episode today, just very interesting year. Very interesting. Lots of change, lots of unknowns, and we're still in it. And sometimes when things feel out of control, we might revert into some unhealthy behaviors. We might think we just need to work harder or work longer, but we hurt ourselves and our bodies. We can't do that. We have to take care of these bodies. When your health goes, really nothing else matters. And so although we're really passionate about our work and we want to be there for our clients, and we have these really important missions in these important businesses, we can't do the work at the expense of our health and our families. Right? They deserve our attention and our energy. And when we set up our businesses intelligently and we really know that we can have systems in place, we can work with these tools that exist to keep us on track. We have various tools like this project management tool that we use in my business. I can't imagine doing business without it. I couldn't imagine, having certain things that we use that just make me be able to do my great work, but not have to do it all the freaking time. I don't want to do this all the time. I'm very intentional about my schedule and how I operate. I don't take calls every single day. I don't take them from 9 to 5. I teach this. This is a big piece of what I teach in my business. And I just think it's really important, especially now. I have 3 young kids. And we homeschooled even before the pandemic. So there was that, but they deserve me to be present with them. They deserve me to be around for them. They deserve me to be able to take them to the lake for a few hours. And I'm so grateful that I set this thing up in a way that I can do that. I know not everyone has that same setup, but for those of you who are, you have your own thing, I challenge you and I encourage you to make some shifts. Start doing it because we're not going back to the way things were.
No, and you know what? I think even people who do work a 9 to 5, like I think that plays to them too. Because I'll give you an example. Like I work at a company. I work for someone else. However, I'm extremely happy here. I've been here for 16 years.
Nice.
I know the owners and partners in the business really well. They trust me as it relates to operating, portions of their business. And, I do this radio show, which is another creative outlet for me that I haven't got to do since I was in terrestrial AM and FM radio back in, oh my goodness, 2001, 2 or 3, somewhere around in that neighborhood. And, being able to do a radio show in the manner where I can talk about topics that, nobody's forcing me to talk about anything. I don't have sponsors or advertising pushing the narrative, and just being able to be, real and have that, off the cuff, non-scripted, real conversations with human beings and be able to come out with content that is important for other people because, they need to hear this information too. And it's okay to have a 9 to 5 if you're happy with that.
Totally.
But
go for it.
But make sure you take time for yourself. Even though I come to the studio and I probably work a little bit more than I should, though, I have a routine, right?
Yes.
When I get home from work, the first thing that I do an hour of karate. Right, my phone gets turned off. Right, and I do an hour of karate. Unless it's karate class, I'm still doing an hour of karate. So whether I'm at class or at home, I do that 5 days a week. And once I'm done with that hour, I'll turn my phone back on. We'll have some dinner. If I get a phone call or something like that for work, I'll answer it. But I'll just say, hey, look, I'm in the middle of dinner. Let me call you back. And because I don't have a problem and then I put 1 hour into work after I put my kid to bed. Right. Yep. Once she's in bed, then I have 1 hour where I'll check some emails or whatever. And then after that, it's, my day is over. Yep. So I totally get that. And you have to make time for that. Even if you're 9 to 5 or even if you're, your own boss, you have to make time.
Yeah. And I think the key is just figure out what works for you. Some people, my father worked a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 for like 30 plus years. And he loved it. He wouldn't be a good entrepreneur. He would not have known what to do with himself. He needed the structure. He needed the place to go. He worked for the government. He worked for the IRS. Now he helps me a bit in my business because he's an accountant. And so that's a nice thing to have, And so I think it's not like this is bad and this is good. It's just, how are you wired? What do you need? What kind of structure, what kind of space is right for you to produce your best work, to be in your zone of genius? That's just it. And then what kind of unit are you creating for your family? My husband also works from home. He doesn't work like a traditional Monday through Friday job either. He works in sports television. And he was the one to kind of show me if there was another way of doing it. I just thought the only option was Monday through Friday. And I met him like, wait, what? Wait, excuse me? It can be a different thing? And so we've created this very non-traditional life, and it works for us. And there's times when things are full on and and I'm like, all right, I'll take the kids and then tomorrow you got it. And we just make it work. For other people, this kind of framework would just be no way, Jose. So you have to, you got to feel into what it is for you, what's being asked of you. If you have a partner, just figure it out. And I also know it can shift. It can change as you evolve, as your family needs evolve, as the seasons change. It can evolve.
My wife and I have been in a state of ever evolving something since January 1st of 2020. It's been so crazy. We had, my wife works as well. She's in accounting, and so she works. She goes to her job. I go to my job. Our child goes to school. In the summertime we had summer camps, and my mom luckily lives here in town, and so she could take our child on a couple of days a week, and it was great. She got to spend time with grandma. She gets time to go to camp in the summer and see her friends, and everything was great. And then COVID-19 hit, and it's like, hey, you need to go home and work. Oh, while you're working, you're going to be the teacher, the lunch lady, the accountant, all of those things. So there was that transition, and then it was like, she got a note from her company that was like, hey, we need you to come back to work. Like, we're opening the office. We need you to come back. And then she's like, all right, well, I still have a child that I need to take care of. There's nothing. And I swear it was one of those things where like a door opens on purpose at the right time, where the day that she got the email saying, hey, starting on Monday, you all need to come back to work. Governor Doug Ducey here in Arizona said, hey, you know what? We're opening childcare and daycare camps starting on Monday. And I was like, oh my goodness, is that divine or what?
Yes. Yeah. And it's just that reminder that it's all lining up. It might not be easy. It might not be what it was, but it's all lining up. And so when we can just trust that and to know that we're going to figure it all out, and I just know that so many people have been in that state of flux. And in Massachusetts, I don't even know if things did open up here, but all the, most of the camps were canceled. And so I am extra grateful that my husband and I have very flexible schedules and we can figure this out. We have figured this out. My heart goes out to people who was much more challenging for, especially when the kids, it's just, you, it's hard. Sometimes you're a lot, but when you've got kids in the mix, it just is a whole nother conversation. And I know that as we move into the fall, there's going to be more considerations and more unknowns. And so I just send everybody love and encouragement as we all walk this line.
Yeah, I think it gets frustrating for everybody, and honestly, I think the most hard hit are the kids. They have this, as parents, we're so programmed to provide structure to our children, right? To give them structure. And then when it's really hard to give structure because, your normal, whatever that may be, has been basically taken away from you. It's challenging, and it gets frustrating. And, I urge everybody, just take a deep breath and take a step backwards, right? And just view the landscape. Don't take an action. Just view the landscape and think for an extra 2 hours, before taking action, just to make sure that, you're moving in a space that's right for who you are and where you're trying to go. Because, sometimes you're such in a corner to make a quick decision, and sometimes making a quick decision makes a wrong decision, right? And so sometimes you got to back up a little bit. As much as entrepreneurs always want to move forward, right? I mean,
we want to make those decisions totally.
Yep.
My whole thing has been space and grace during this time. I've actually been doing a lot of talks on homeschooling and work balance. I have a friend who owns a corporate wellness company, and she hired me as a speaker to come in and speak to their clients, and been all online, of course, which has been fabulous to be able to serve in that way. But I've been able to speak about this quite a bit. And there was a quote that I came across by this clinical psychologist and parenting coach. And since we've been talking about this, I thought it would be helpful to share. Her name is Rebecca Schrag-Hirschberg. And for those of you who've been, struggling on the kid front and feeling like they might be falling behind or whatever, which I don't believe in that. But the quote is this: if you do nothing academically and just focus on your relationship with your children, then it will be time well spent. Kids can't learn if they're not feeling safe and loved. If there's a strain in the connections at home and it feels very tense and miserable, your child's brain isn't going to take in what they're learning because they're stressed and angry. Your relationship is the precursor for everything else falling into place.
Well said. Well said.
Nice.
Jenny Fenig, thank you so much for being on the show today. For those of you who want to find out more about Jenny, you can go to jennyfenig.com, JennyFenig.com. And of course, she is all over the social spaces. You can find her on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, all under Jenny Fenig. Just do a quick search and you can connect with her. And of course, go check out her blog, jennyfenig.com/blog. And Jenny, thank you for being a guest. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to be on Finding Your Frequency today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I love talking to you.
All you listeners out there who are listening on their favorite catching devices or podcast websites or applications, do me a favor and give us 5 stars and not 4, because I think Jenny and I deserve it. We're 5-star people. I want to send some appreciation out to those people that do listen to the show. You guys make it what it is. Thank you. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns about the radio show, you can always email us info@voiceamerica.com, and make sure you stay tuned for next week's episode of Finding Your Frequency as we keep continuing down the path of how do people tick, what do they do, and why do they do it. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Ryan Treasure, right here on Finding Your Frequency on the Voice America Talk Radio Network.